Warning. You are entering a restricted area. Return to where you came from, or be destroyed.
You're heading your way towards the useless nerdy knowledge. Please do not go any further. If you will not comply, you will hear a nerd rambling.
Nerd alert!
Get those nerds! Nerd! 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 Exterminate!
Go ahead, make my day.
Bazinga!
I'll be back.
Hello, fellow podcasters. My name is Ben, and welcome to a very special Christmas episode of Useless Nerdy Knowledge. Of course, once again, I apologize for not uploading a new episode in, again, I think another month. But again, I just felt like, I don't need to do it all the time, only when I feel like I need to put effort in anything that I feel like I want to talk about something or just do something special. So anyway, so for today's Christmassy episode, I decided I would talk about my own personal list of my top 10 favorite Christmas movies. It's either that or, where basically for this list, it's like either movies that are literally Christmas themed, like the entire setting and plot or tone of the entire movie is literally in Christmas, or a movie that just so happens to take place around Christmas. And I think you know exactly what type of movie I'm talking about when I mean that, and I'll get to that in a little bit. So of course, with Christmas movies, everybody loves watching their favorite Christmas movies around Christmas time. There's Miracle on 34th Street. There's so many. There's Christmas Carol, It's a Wonderful Life, and Christmas Vacation, Christmas Story. Whether they're remakes or even one of those weird Christmas rom-coms everyone sees on the Hallmark Channel. People just love celebrating with their favorite Christmas movies, whether they're real, whether they're dramatic, whether they're a family movie, whether they're a comedy, or I guess even a horror Christmas movie that people seem to like for whatever reason. We all like to watch Christmas movies. Let's not be wrong here. I mean, it is a bit better than Christmas carols, am I right? But anyway, so before I start off my list, I feel like I'll just do a couple of honorable mentions of Christmas-related movies. The first one, it would be Trading Places, starring Dan Aykroyd and Eddie Murphy. Before I even saw this film, I thought this was one of those movies that was kind of like a Freaky Friday kind of clone, where they switch bodies, but they have the same mind or something like that. It's not exactly that. Basically, one person's rich, the other person's poor, and literally their lives are swapped out, but then they have to work together to stop these two rich jerks. I guess the basic way would be to do it would be to, basically to stop them and their business, because they basically framed and screwed this guy over to make him from being rich to poor and making the poor guy rich. It's a very well done comedy, and has a couple good cast members in there, including Jamie Lee Curtis, who's in there, and it's a pretty good comedy. The whole theme of the movie isn't exactly Christmas, but there is some Christmas related stuff in it, and then the climax of the movie, the later scenes towards the end of the movie actually take place more on New Year's Day or New Year's Eve, whatever. But I still feel like that there's some Christmas-related stuff in there to make it a Christmas-related movie. And then, of course, we have next on the honorable mention list is The Polar Express, which, of course, most of the Christmas fan movie community seem to like this or find this a bit iffy. I like this one just because it's an interesting type of thing. It's one of those 3D motion capture type of films, and for the early 2000s, it was pretty impressive. It's kind of like Beowulf, but it's not really common that you see movies like this of the type of motion capture movies like this and all that. You mainly see this more in video games, you swear this is a cutscene in a video game and all that. But with Tom Hanks being in it, it's pretty good for what it is. And of course, it was directed by Robert Zemeckis, who did Back to the Future and all that stuff. And it seems to be a pretty decent film. I feel like it's another one of those films that would keep kids entertained for a good hour and a half, I guess. Not much to say about it, but if you haven't seen it, I suggest you give it a watch just to say you did. And speaking of which, we'll get to Jingle All the Way, starring Arnold Schwarzenegger. This is one of those movies that's entertaining, but not a lot of critics seem to like it, but I think it's fine enough. It's not a great Christmas movie, of course, but I feel like it has its moments. And of course, the iconic "put the cookie down" line that Schwarzenegger gives is probably the most memorable part of that. But basically, the whole plot of this is that, he is a father who works too hard and tries to keep his promises to his kid, but he can't always be there for him, so he tries to put some effort into getting a Turbo Man action figure for his son. And literally, it's like the most popular toy in the entire wherever this is. I don't know if it's New York. I don't think it's New York, but it's like a really big city where basically everyone is after Turbo Man, and there's like none in stock at this store, none in stock at that store, or someone just happens to get it. You snooze, you lose. And, he works so hard to try and get one Turbo Man from one place to another, and he's battling Sinbad's character to try and get one too. And it's a pretty entertaining enough movie. And honestly, it's pretty good and, in a way, pretty funny. But yeah, if you haven't seen this, I suggest you give it a watch. And the last on the honorable mention list would be Gremlins. This was one of the classic Steven Spielberg sci-fi horror movies that people seem to know what it is. Now, surprisingly, I feel like some people forget that it might be, set around Christmas because, it starts off with Christmas music, there's Christmas lights and snow everywhere, Christmas presents, Christmas trees, all that other stuff. But yeah, this is basically one of the movies that, even though the entire theme isn't set around Christmas, it takes place around Christmas. So, if you haven't seen Gremlins, it's one of those classic Steven Spielberg movies, along with, E.T. and the Goonies and all that stuff. I feel like it's one of those that's pretty good. There is a sequel of Gremlins 2. That one isn't exactly Christmas related at all, but I feel like it's an interesting enough movie where it's more comedy based and pretty bizarre. A bit forgettable, but I feel like it's still appreciated with fans of Gremlins. Now the only question is, will there be a third one? Because I feel like there's all these different hints that there might be coming soon. I mean, they just came out with a Gremlins Mountain Dew commercial with Gizmo in it, so who knows? Maybe there's a potential for that. Who knows? I wouldn't mind seeing that if they use the practical effects again with animatronics and puppets and all that. But I don't know. It's just of how many years ago the second one came out, I almost feel like that maybe it won't happen. But if it does, and if they do it right, kind of like with Ghostbusters Afterlife, then I guess I wouldn't mind seeing it. And okay, so let's go ahead and get this Christmas list started. So number 10 for me is Elf, starring Will Ferrell with James Caan. This is one of those early 2000s movies that was also directed by Jon Favreau, who did Iron Man. Now, this is one of those, one of those early 2000s movies that was deemed to be a classic once it came out. It's a pretty decent enough Christmas movie, I would say. It's pretty memorable for what it is, but at the same time, it's one of those movies where it's the grown man is trapped in a kid's body or something like that. Basically, the whole idea is that this kid accidentally rides a trip with Santa as a baby, and he's raised by elves. He doesn't realize that he's an elf after so many years, and once he actually, once the cat comes out of the bag, he has to go find his real family, basically his dad, of course. And so he travels all the way to New York, gets himself into different mischief and all these different funny situations, and it's pretty funny for what it is. There's not a whole lot to say about it. It's just one of those movies that you need to see in order to enjoy. I feel like that originally, Jim Carrey was going to be this role, and I guess that wouldn't be too bad, but I feel like Jim Carrey has had enough of Christmas movies because he's already been the Grinch. So I feel like having Will Ferrell give this role, I feel like was an okay choice. But yeah, if you haven't seen Elf, I suggest you give it a watch, just to say you did, and just to see what director Jon Favreau did before he even did Iron Man. Next at number 9 for me would be Batman Returns, the sequel to Tim Burton's original Batman, starring Michael Keaton and Jack Nicholson, who played as the Joker in the first one. And this one includes Danny DeVito as the Penguin and Michelle Pfeiffer as Catwoman. Now, I feel like that this movie, in my opinion, is a bit better than the first. Something about it is just really, really cool. And of course, the whole setting, of course, is set around Christmas. And even though it's a bit darker than the first one, I still feel like it's really good for what it is. It's pretty entertaining to watch. Of course, with Michael Keaton, I feel like he's like the greatest Batman, and I feel like no one else can top him. Like Affleck did a pretty good, he did an okay job, and Christian Bale did a decent enough job. Adam West, well, is just Adam West, of course, but I feel like Michael Keaton is probably a Batman that can't be replicated just because of how good he was. But yeah, I feel like that the casting for this was pretty good. Out of all people, for Danny DeVito to play the Penguin, it's actually pretty interesting. And for Michelle Pfeiffer to be Catwoman, very good choice. She does an excellent job at being a very ruthless, sexy, and criminal-esque type of villain or anti-hero. I don't know. Mostly a villain in this, but then, changes character at the end of the movie. But it's still really good. I don't want to give too much away. Well, there isn't really a whole lot to give away because it's a Batman movie, but don't really want to mention too much, but it's really good. It's another one of those Tim Burton movies that's really good for what it is. And then, of course, the later sequels after that, like Batman Returns and Batman and Robin and Batman Forever are kind of the lesser sequels after that. So yeah. Next is on number 8 is Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. Of course, what can I say that hasn't already been said? It's like one of the most popular classic 1960s stop motion Rankin Bass films ever. Of course, like the other one would be like Frosty the Snowman, which is another one I like. I forgot to put that in my honorable mentions, but yeah, go ahead and include Frosty the Snowman. That's a good animated one. But with Rankin Bass, they're mostly well known for like their Christmas specials of like stop motion, like Santa Claus is coming to town and all that. But this is the one that most people remember out of any of the others. There's not a whole lot else to say about it. If you've seen it, you know exactly what it's about. It's about a Rudolph who has a neon shining red nose, who gets teased and then basically goes to live on the island of misfit toys with a couple friends that he makes, and then basically saves Christmas. Again, if you haven't seen this, you need to watch it because it's like even though it's old, maybe a bit weird to watch, it's still classic, and it's a movie that I look forward to watch every year around Christmas. Number 7, we have Shazam. Yeah, that's right, the recent DC movie, Shazam. When this came out in like the summertime, this was basically the film itself was set around Christmas. Like you could see Christmas lights, Santa around there. Now, of course, the entire movie, it doesn't really have a theme about Christmas, of course, but with all the snow around the place and the Santas running around and all the Christmas-related stuff you see in the background, I feel like it's a Christmas movie to me. Maybe it's not a Christmas movie, it's just a movie set around Christmas. This was definitely one of my, so far, my most favorite of the DC Extended Universe movies. Because, like, the new Suicide Squad would be, like, at a second place. The first Suicide Squad would be, like, at a third. And the rest were kind of iffy, of course. But Shazam is definitely the movie that it's, like, the closest to being an actual Marvel film, because it's like really good, really funny, really entertaining, and really action-packed. It's just great. I don't want to give too much away, but it's really great. I guess the only thing I can bring up is that Billy Batson, who is the main character, turns into this superhero called Shazam. Basically takes on the lives on to be the carrier of that of the powers of Shazam, basically. Of course, you'd have to look up more on like the comics, and of course, just watch the movie yourself because it's great. It's really great for what it is. Next at number 6, we have the original 1966 animated classic of How the Grinch Stole Christmas. Of course, there are different variations of it, like the live-action version with Jim Carrey in it. I've only seen pieces of that film, but I have not seen that movie all the way through. And then, of course, there was a recent 3D animated How the Grinch Stole Christmas, or I think it's just called The Grinch, of the same people who did Despicable Me. But honestly, I don't know if I want to watch that. I'm sorry, but I feel like that with the original 1966 classic, there was more behind it. Dr. Seuss was behind it. Boris Karloff, Frankenstein's monster himself, did the whole voice and narration of it. And it has that Looney Tunes style animation that's literally from people who did Looney Tunes. It's just great. And it's definitely one of those specials that I look forward to every year. Same with like Rudolph and a few others. So yeah, coming up next at number 5 would be the original Home Alone. This is definitely one of John Hughes' greatest, and I think one of his last greatest ones until at the end of his whole movie career up until I believe the late '90s or something like that. But this is definitely where Macaulay Culkin became a real huge star after this movie, and this was like number 1 at the box office for like I don't know how many weeks, but this was a popular movie, and I don't see why not, because it's great, it's funny, it's entertaining to watch, and it's just great. I don't want to give too much away, but basically the whole plot is that Kevin McAllister, who is the kid left home alone by complete accident because their family is rushing to make a trip all the way to Paris for Christmas vacation, and basically he's left home all alone by himself, and he's like, oh yay, I'm all home alone and all that stuff. But in the meantime, even though he's all home alone, he has 2 burglars that are trying to break into his house, so he basically sets up a bunch of traps, and it's no brainer of a really good and original comedy for what it is. It's really good, and at the end of the movie, it has some good heart to it. Of course, with the sequel, Home Alone 2 Lost in New York, it's basically the exact same film, just set around New York and with a few different cast members. Of course, the entire plot is basically the same, just more set around New York, but not much else to say about it. And then, of course, with Home Alone 3, this did not have any of the original cast members. Instead, it just had completely different cast and completely different characters. So, didn't really do a whole lot for them. And then, of course, since people didn't know how to stop not stopping, they kept milking the franchise by making Home Alone 4, Home Alone 5, and, of course, the recently extremely hated Disney Plus movie, Home Sweet Home Alone, or just Home Alone 6 for that matter. Yeah, Disney has lost their minds, including with the stupid Diary of a Wimpy Kid reboot animated thing. God, it looks awful. Anyway, regardless of the crappy sequels that no one asks for, the original Home Alone is definitely a decent watch. And if you want to watch more of the story of the McAllisters, I would say go ahead and watch the second one. You'll obviously know that everything's literally spliced exactly from the first movie, but I'd say just give it a watch. Next at number 4, and I bet some of you people were either hoping or dredging this, we have Die Hard. Yep, I'm sorry, I think it's a Christmas movie. If not, I would say it's just a movie that takes place around Christmas. I mean, literally the entire movie is set on Christmas Eve. There's not a whole lot to say about this because it's one of those movies that you need to watch for yourself in order to love it, but it's really entertaining for what it was. Basically, there's like a whole bunch of terrorists that take over the building, and New York cop John McClane, played by the amazing action legend himself, Bruce Willis, plays as John McClane, who basically has to stop the terrorists. And the whole main terrorist, or the leader of this terrorist organization, is none other than the great old Hans Gruber, who is played by amazing actor Alan Rickman. And he's amazing in this. I mean, this entire movie is just amazing and just great for what it is. I mean, heck, even the second Die Hard movie was also had a Christmas theme to it. So you can't tell me that the Die Hard movie isn't a Christmas movie when it has different Christmas related themes. They have Santa hats, they have Christmas lights, and they have Christmas music all over the place. And then the sequel literally takes place around Christmas as well. The other movies, of course, do not, and that makes sense. And actually, I think that Die Hard with a Vengeance was a really good movie because that was a movie that kept me on my toes all the time, not knowing what to expect next. But with the first Die Hard, it's definitely a classic for what it is. Next at number 3, we have A Charlie Brown Christmas. This is one of those other animated specials that I look forward to every year just because of how great it was. It has a great setting for the whole season. Great comedic tones and jokes and all that. It's just a great family classic. I don't want to say too much else about it because what else can I say that hasn't already been said about this movie? It's just a very timeless animated classic. At number 2, we have National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. And this is, I believe, the third in the National Lampoon's Vacation films. And this is another one that I look forward to watching every year. So, of course, this stars Chevy Chase, and if you haven't seen like the first Vacation movie, you may not exactly get the whole premise of it. But with Clark Griswold, played by Chevy Chase, he basically has like some terrible luck when he tries to go on different vacations with his family. I mean, there's literally 4, or I guess 5, but no, 4 vacation movies, and I believe that all 4 of them, well, maybe not all 4 of them, maybe it was just the first 3. I don't know exactly, but had John Hughes involved. And of course, with this movie in particular of Christmas Vacation that John Hughes worked with, this is basically where Home Alone came from, because had it not been for this movie that John Hughes worked on, Home Alone may not have ever existed or been thought about. But this is definitely one of those movies that's just like really great and really funny and just absolutely classic. There's so many great lines in that, and of course, who can forget about Cousin Eddie? I mean, seriously, Cousin Eddie is just like blown up all the time of "Merry Christmas, the crapper was full," and all that. So, I know he didn't exactly say that, but I'm paraphrasing, of course. But still, it's like very great for what it is, and it's just an absolute classic. And of course, finally, we have at number 1, and of course, this is just my own opinion of putting this movie at number 1, because this is just my favorite movie of all time. And heck, one of the quotes I keep seeing on different DVDs that say, maybe it's the best Christmas movie ever made. For me, it's the original Christmas Story. Now, this is definitely one of those movies that's just so... I don't know what else to say about this. I mean, this is just like one of those Christmas movies I enjoyed seeing as a kid, and I still do enjoy seeing it every single year around Christmas. I mean, there's so many great lines in that, so many great moments, so many funny, good moments in there, and the fact that like people keep trying to ruin this movie by making live shows or sequels, spin-offs, whatever, and different merchandise everywhere all over the place. It's still a great a Christmas movie. There's lots of different great memorable props, lines, and all these different settings in the movie. It's just a great movie. Basically, it takes place around this little kid who's basically the grown-up version or the author of the book that this movie is based off of, voicing the whole narration of Ralphie, who is basically wanting a Red Ryder BB gun for Christmas. And of course, he makes all these subtle hints to his parents that he wants one, and all this stuff, and all these different things go on. And it's just really great for what it is. The entire movie is just really, really great and really perfect. There's not a whole lot I can say about it. But yeah. So that's pretty much it for this entire Christmas episode, for all I wanted to say. I know there's a lot more Christmas movies out there, especially with like all the different variations of Christmas Carol. Like, where would I begin? Which one would I choose? Like, would I choose this version of Scrooge McDuck from Disney? Would I choose the Muppet version? Would I choose the Bill Murray Scrooged version? It's like, which one would I choose? I don't know. I feel like any one is just as good as the other or whatever, because they're basically all the same, but just a bit different every now and then. But anyway, again, like I said, I know there are some movies that I haven't really seen all the way through or haven't seen at all, like Miracle on 34th Street I haven't seen, and with the whole Wonderful Life movie, I tried to watch that. It just didn't feel like Christmas at all to me, because like most of it, I don't think it even involves Christmas until maybe the end. I don't know. I haven't even seen it all the way through. But regardless, I hope you enjoyed this episode. I hope you have a very, very Merry Christmas, and hopefully you enjoyed this episode, and I'll try to do the best I can to make more episodes in the future. So thank you very much for listening. I'll see you guys next time.